Hello. This is Dave Zick. I live in Fort Collins, and that's a city in Colorado. Uh, and I'd like to talk about Fort Collins City Ordinance 17181, which is public property camping. I want this to be an introduction to this law. So I'll begin. I don't have the complete law memorized, but the law is very short, consists of only two sentences. The first sentence prescribes or makes it illegal to do something which is called camping. Okay. It also makes it illegal to permit somebody to camp, which is a verb. The word to is not a verb. The word camp, well, to camp together means camping. Okay. And it also makes it illegal to pitch a tent. Okay. And it makes it illegal to do these things on public property. It's the only location I'll reference in the first sentence. Now, the second sentence is really by far the most important sentence. The first sentence only adds two things. One is that it's illegal to permit somebody to camp. The other is a location, which is public property. Okay. The second sentence is, and I do have this memorized, so I will quote it, is camping shall mean to sleep, comma, spend the night, comma, reside or dwell temporarily, comma, with or without shelter or other camping gear, and with or without bedding, or to perform activities of daily living, such as eating or sleeping at such place. Then the next sentence, consists of three sentences, is camping shall not include incidental napping or picnicking. Okay. Now, I think I'm not going to talk right now about what this law means. I'm just going to talk about how to prepare it for analysis. This law, when I first read it, I had no freaking idea what it meant, because there are many possible sub-interpretations of it which are sensible. But if you interpret the whole thing as a unit, a single thing, it makes no sense, because it just boggles the mind in the incredible unconstitutionality of it, that one would think that it just can't be, right? So first, let's talk about what I would like to call the clauses of the definition of camping. The definition of camping is the second sentence. Okay. Now, why should we break it into clauses? Well, because it's naturally broken up into clauses already through the use of commas. Second, severability is necessary for judicial analysis. Many times, not always. Thirdly, something called separability, as elicited by Professor Fallon, is sometimes called into question. That's where you may have a law which has, say, 4 clauses, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 refers to 2, such and such as in 2, 2 such and such as in 3, 3 such and such as in 4. 4, but only is applied by 1, in which case you have an entangled mess, and it can't always be unentangled into mutually exclusive and jointly inclusive sentences. Instead, we have these entangled things. That's not the case for this law. This law is very easily separated. And the first sentence is, it's, camping shall mean, comma, to sleep. So let's let the first clause be to sleep. Then there's a comma, to spend the night. So let's let the second clause be to spend the night. So we have clause 1, clause 2. The third clause is to reside or dwell temporarily. And there's a comma, with or without bedding or other camping gear, and with or without shelter. Okay, now the with or without logically adds nothing to any statement, because you can always append with or without to anything, and the logical meaning of it does not change. But it does inform us of some extras here, like it would inform the police on elements of probable cause, such as bedding, shelter, etc. So it does change the meaning of the whole law. In the third clause is to perform activities of daily living, such as eating or sleeping. And then there's at such place. The third sentence could be considered to be a clause in and of itself. At this moment, let's consider it to be a clause. Later, we'll see that it's redundant and doesn't add anything. But the fifth sentence is, camping shall not include incidental napping, or picnicking. Okay. So, first of all, let's note that these clauses sort of interact with each other. They're not independent. Incidental nap is a form of sleep. Eating is a form of activity of daily living. And also, this law is incredibly vague at places. So, to sleep is clear. Well, I mean, you could argue, any lawyer could argue it's not clear, but let's say that it's clear. To spend the night is, I would say, fairly clear, because you can always define night as being, say a half hour after sunset to a half hour before sunrise, or something like that. As in the driving laws, you're supposed to turn lights on or whatever. To reside or dwell temporarily. Now that is vague. And the meaning of that is totally unclear. First of all, the word temporary is unclear. So temporarily will be unclear too. In terms of like how long temporary should be in order to activate this law. Second of all, reside and dwell sort of have the same meaning. Not exactly. To dwell is more to linger. To reside is more to live. Temporarily, when you reside or dwell temporarily, I mean, how long does that mean? If you're walking about and you stop for 5 minutes, are you dwelling temporarily? Well, yeah, sure, you're dwelling temporarily. Does that mean that you're camping? Well, who knows? It's up to the policeman, the judge, who decides it, whatever. So that's totally unclear as to its meaning. It's very vague. So the third sentence is, excuse me, something just popped up and blocked my view. To perform activities of daily living, such as eating or sleeping. What does that mean? Well, first of all, we have an interaction with the first, sleeping. So the word sleeping means nothing. It doesn't add anything extra. to the entirety of the definition, so it's irrelevant. Eating, however, is not an activity of daily living as defined by all 50 states. Activities of daily living is a legal term. It's also a federal OSHA term. And activities of daily living are well defined, and they go by an acronym DEATH, DEATH. Now, what does the acronym mean? Well, D is dressing, E is eating, A is ambulating, T is toileting, and H is hygiene. So when one says activities of daily living such as eating or sleeping, eating is already included as an activity of daily living, and sleeping is included in no list of OSHA activities of daily living. I haven't checked all 50 states, but I wouldn't be surprised if none of the 50 states define activities of daily living in terms of sleeping. Sleeping is an extra, not included as an ordinary activity of daily living. And yet it's already irrelevant because it was mentioned in the first clause, camping shall mean sleep. So already we get the sense that the city is being quite redundant, quite vague. And all of this, one would suppose, is by intention, because it took the city over 6 months to create this law. There were committee meetings, and there were communications between these members of the meeting, had several lawyers working on it. The city claims to be comprised of first-class citizens, first-class people, rather, on its website. I did have a chance to interact with the lawyer who actually created this law because she later became a judge, and she seems pretty dumb. I really shouldn't say this, but she seems, God, it wasn't the main judge. It was another judge who actually created this. It's a logical mess. So I don't think she has any kind of rigorous scientific background, or I have no idea what her background is, but it's incredible that the city actually came up with this. So one would presuppose or suppose, I think anyone would suppose it was done intentionally, and that the homeless people at which it was aimed at, they just assumed had no brains or whatever. So those are the 4 clauses that I want to concentrate on. The 5th clause, let's eliminate its importance right now. And that's that camping shall not include incidental napping or picnicking. Okay, how can we eliminate this? Well, first of all, it doesn't make things illegal. It just makes things which were not illegal before still not illegal. Picnicking was already legal. Okay, so that adds nothing. Incidental napping, well, it's unclear as to whether that was legal or not legal, because the first clause says it is illegal to sleep. Camping shall mean to sleep. So how is it that we can eliminate this? Well, first of all, incidental, what does that mean, the word incidental? Well, generally speaking, if it's not incidental to something else which is included nearby in the words of the sentence, it must be incidental to will, incidental to intent, incidental to what was meant, or incidental to a guilty state of mind, or mens rea, incidental to mens rea. So it'd be sleeping without mens rea. It'd be sleep that is unavoidable. It'd be exhaustive bouts of zonk, where one just falls asleep because they can't help themselves, because they had no intention of falling asleep. It would be Yeah, anyway. So, okay. So, another possibility is that because there is a word very close to incidental napping, and that's picnicking, it could be incidental, it could be ruled to be incidental to eating too much food in a picnic or something like that. You could say, okay, it's incidental to that. My argument, um, I made an argument and I immediately rescinded it. I said that I wasn't camping at all. But then I said I also admitted to camping. I incriminated myself on purpose because I wanted to get rid of this law by gaining judicial review, by losing and then appealing. But my argument that was that I was napping because what happened, the form of sleep that I was taking part of became a nap when the cop woke me up, and therefore it was an incidental nap, incidental to the cop waking me up. Okay, that's sort of a joke argument, but it is true that I woke up because the cop woke me up, and when she woke me up, I'd only been asleep for 3 hours, and that because I'd only been asleep for 3 hours, that should be an incidental nap because on the 4th of July picnics, people often sleep for longer than 3 hours when they're napping, and that's okay because that's an incidental nap, so associated with picnicking. So, but at any rate, the fifth clause has no meaning whatsoever because there is no aspect of mens rea in an incidental nap. So it could be ignored. So the entire law, because it just makes things which are not illegal still not illegal, it can be ignored. So let me summarize. This is just an introduction to Fort Collins City Ordinance 17181. And we're setting it up for analysis. So it's in a pre-analysis state. So what we're doing is organizing it. We're organizing it by separating it. Separation means chopping in as severable or severing it, preparing it for the judge. Separability and severability generally mean the same thing. The person to go for this is Professor Fallon, I think, is the first place I would look up. He has written quite a bit about facial. He's probably the world's #1 expert on, challenges to the law, facial challenges to the law, as opposed to as applied challenges to the law. So to summarize, the definition of camping in Fort Collins is to sleep, clause 1, to spend the night, clause 2, to reside or dwell temporarily, clause 3, or to perform activities of daily living such as eating or sleeping, clause 4. I've left some unimportant things out, like with or without bedding or other camping gear, and with or without shelter. That's only important insofar as gaining probable cause, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so that's my summary of Fort Collins City Ordinance 17181, setting it up for analysis. Thank you. Have a good day.